thought the darkness would swallow you, didn't they? Thought you'd curl up, afraid, lost, begging for a way out. Oh, how little they understood. See, normal people, they fear the dark. They tremble at the unknown. They panic when the lights go out. But you were born in it, forged by it, shaped by every betrayal, every scar, every night spent alone with nothing but your demons whispering in your ear. I thought pushing you into the abyss would break you, but monsters don't fear the dark. We become it. We thrive in it. We learn to see when others are blind, to move when others are frozen. They thought they were casting you into the void, but what they didn't know is that you are the void. And now it's your turn to remind them who the real nightmare is. They thought throwing you into darkness would shatter you. They believed the weight of the pain, the loneliness, the silence would be too much for you to bear. They expected you to crumble, to lose yourself, to beg for a way out. They assumed that stripping away your comforts, your support, your sense of security would leave you powerless. But what they didn't realize was that darkness doesn't destroy those who know how to survive in it. It shapes them, it hardens them, it turns them into something unshakable. At first, the darkness was suffocating. The uncertainty, the fear, the overwhelming weight of everything they put you through felt unbearable. But then something changed. You adapted, you adjusted, you stopped looking for a way out and started learning how to navigate the shadows. You discovered strength in places you never knew existed. You realized that everything you needed wasn't in the light, it was within you all along. The darkness became your training ground. It taught you resilience. It sharpened your instincts. It forced you to let go of illusions, of false hope, of anything that made you weak. It showed you who you really are beneath all the layers of doubt and fear. They thought they were burying you, but they were only fueling your transformation. They expected to find you broken, lost, defeated. Instead, they created something far beyond their understanding. Someone who doesn't just endure the darkness, but commands it. They thought the pain would finish you, that it would be the final blow, the thing that silenced you forever. They expected it to consume you, to leave you hollow, to turn you into a shadow of who you once were. They assumed pain was the end of your story, the chapter where you gave up, where you surrendered, where you became just another casualty of life's cruelty. But pain didn't destroy you. It woke you up. At first, it felt unbearable. The weight of the betrayal, the heartbreak, the failure pressing down on you like a force you couldn't escape. It tore through everything familiar, everything safe, everything that once gave you comfort. But pain has a way of stripping away illusions. It forces you to confront what's real. It burns away weakness, leaving only raw, unfiltered strength. Pain didn't come to end you. It came to rebuild you into something unshakable. You stopped running from it. You faced it. You embraced it. And in doing so, you discovered something most people never will. Pain isn't a prison, it's a passage. It's the thing that separates those who break from those who rise. It forces growth. It demands evolution. It reshapes you into someone who can walk through fire without flinching. They thought pain would be your downfall, but it was the very thing that set you free. Fear keeps them trapped. It whispers in their ears, telling them to stay small, to stay quiet, to never take risks. It paralyzes them, makes them hesitate, convinces them that failure is worse than never trying at all. They run from it, avoid it, pretend it isn't there, hoping that if they ignore it long enough, it will disappear. But you did something different. You didn't run, you didn't hide, you looked fear in the eyes, took its hand, and learned to dance with it. At first, fear felt overwhelming. It wrapped around you like chains, tightening with every doubt, every insecurity, every painful memory. But instead of letting it break you, you leaned into it. You let it teach you, guide you, sharpen your instincts. You realized fear wasn't the enemy, it was the test. The fire that forges the strongest steel, the weight that builds the most unshakable strength. While they stayed frozen, you moved forward. While they let fear make decisions for them, you used it as fuel. You learned to walk the line between hesitation and action, between uncertainty and courage. You stopped seeing fear as something to be conquered and started seeing it as a tool, a weapon, a driving force. They let fear dictate their lives, but you turned it into an ally. They feared the unknown, the risk, the possibility of failure, but you understood something they never did. Fear isn't a barrier, it's an invitation. They cower when the light fades. They shrink back when the unknown surrounds them. When shadows stretch long and deep, they fear what they can't see, what they can't control, what lurks just beyond their understanding. They cling to comfort, to safety, to the illusion that light will always protect them. But you don't need protection, you don't need an escape. Because monsters don't fear the dark, they become it. At first they thought the darkness would swallow you whole, that you'd lose yourself in it, that the weight of it would crush whatever fight you had left. They thought it would break you the way it breaks the weak. But what they didn't realize was that the darkness wasn't your enemy, it was your proving ground. It shaped you, sharpened you, stripped away every illusion until all that was left was something untouchable. While they trembled, you adapted. While they searched for a way out, you made yourself at home. You learned to see when others were blind, to move when others were frozen, to use the very thing that terrified them as your greatest weapon. They still cling to the idea that the dark is something to escape from, something dangerous, something to fear. But you know better. You don't just survive in the dark, you rule it. Every scar tells a story of pain, of struggle, of moments that nearly broke you. They thought those wounds would leave you weak, that the damage would be too much for you to recover from. They expected you to stay down, to live as a shell of who you once were, to let your past define your future. But what they didn't understand is that scars aren't signs of defeat. They're proof that you made it through. Each scar carries a lesson, a betrayal that taught you who to trust, a failure that forced you to grow, a heartbreak that showed you your own strength. The pain that once tore you apart became the very thing that shaped you, refined you, turned you into someone who no longer flinches at hardship. Others see scars and think of pain, but you see them and think of survival. They are the marks of battles you've already won, the evidence that no matter what was thrown at you, you endured. The world tries to convince you that scars are flaws, that they should be hidden, covered up, erased. But you wear them like armor. They don't make you weaker, they make you untouchable. They are a silent reminder to everyone who doubted you, everyone who tried to break you, that they failed. You were tested, you were pushed beyond your limits, and yet here you stand. You didn't just survive, you became something stronger. They thought they were breaking you. Every lie, every betrayal, every knife in your back was meant to weaken you, to keep you small, to make sure you never rose beyond what they could control. They underestimated the fire they were feeding. They didn't realize that every wound, every scar, every moment of suffering wasn't destroying you, it was shaping you into something unrecognizable. They thought they were creating a victim, but instead they forged a monster. You weren't born ruthless. You weren't born with fire in your veins and steel in your heart. They put it there. They forced you to harden, to let go of illusions, to stop expecting kindness from the world. They stripped away the softness, the hesitation, the fear, leaving only the raw, unshakable version of yourself they never saw coming. Now they look at you and don't recognize the person standing before them. The same people who laughed while you suffered now tremble at your strength. The ones who thought they could control you now realize they built something they can't contain. They see it in your eyes, the fire, the resilience, the sheer force of will they never thought you had. They created something powerful, something relentless, something that doesn't seek revenge, but simply exists beyond their reach. The monster they now fear isn't cruel or reckless. It's simply untouchable. For so long, you searched for the light. You thought if you just held on a little longer, if you just kept pushing forward, someone or something would pull you out of the darkness. You believed salvation was coming, that the pain would fade once you reached the warmth of something greater. But every time you reached for it, it slipped away. Every time you thought you were close, life reminded you that no one was coming to save you. At first, that realization felt like another weight on your shoulders. The idea that the light you longed for wasn't waiting for you was almost too much to bear. But then, something changed. You stopped looking outward. You stopped hoping for rescue. You stopped waiting for someone to bring you peace, clarity, or strength. Instead, you dug deep. You found something within yourself that had been there all along. You didn't need the light because you became it. Every scar, every failure, every battle you endured turned into fuel. The same darkness that once made you feel lost became the very thing that refined you. You no longer search for hope. You create it. You no longer beg for strength. You embody it. They tried to convince you that you needed something external to complete you, to fix you, to heal you, but you proved them wrong. The light they said you couldn't reach, it was inside you the entire time. They thought the abyss would consume you, that when life pushed you to the edge, you would fall and never rise again. They believed the weight of your pain, your failures, and your loneliness would be too much for you to carry. They expected you to break, to surrender, to become just another soul lost to the darkness. But they didn't understand that the abyss doesn't claim those who refuse to kneel. It only strengthens the ones who dare to stand. At first it felt endless, the fall, the emptiness, the silence pressing in on you from all sides. The more you struggled, the deeper it pulled you in. There was no comfort, no light, no sign that you would ever make it out. But instead of letting it crush you, you adapted. You stopped fighting it, you embraced it. You let the darkness teach you, mold you, prepare you. And in that moment, something shifted. You were no longer the one drowning. It was the abyss that had to adjust to you. They expected to find you shattered, but what they found was someone unbreakable. Someone who walked through the depths of despair and came out stronger. Someone who didn't just survive the darkness, but learned to command it. You didn't escape the abyss, you conquered it. You forced it to recognize your strength, your resilience, your power. And now, when the world tries to pull you down again, it won't be the abyss that swallows you. It will be you standing above it, looking down, knowing it never had control over you in the first place. They believed you would always need their help, that you would forever rely on their approval, their validation, their rescue. They thought that after everything you endured, you would never be able to stand on your own. They assumed you were weak, that you needed them to lift you up, to carry you through life's battles, but they were wrong. What they failed to see is that strength isn't about never falling, never failing, or never struggling. Strength is about rising after you've been knocked down. Strength is about learning to stand tall even when the world around you is trying to keep you small. They thought they held the key to your survival, but the truth is, the key was always within you. Every setback, every betrayal, every moment of doubt was a lesson, not a death sentence. They believed you would stay stuck, but instead you grew. You learned to depend on your own willpower, your own resilience, and your own strength. They thought they were the ones keeping you afloat, but all along, you were the one keeping yourself alive. They believed they could hold the power over you, But in reality, it was you who controlled your fate. Now they're left with a rude awakening. They thought you still needed saving, but what they didn't understand is that you were never broken. You were always the one holding the pieces together. You've outgrown the need for anyone to come to your rescue because you are the one now, standing tall, unshaken, and unbreakable. Their weakness isn't just in underestimating your strength. It's in thinking you ever needed them at all. They thought you were nothing. They thought they knew who you were, what you were capable of. They judged you by your struggles, by your past, by the moments when you were down. They underestimated your potential, thinking you would always remain the same, always be the person they could control or dismiss. But now, it's your turn. You've endured everything they threw at you. You fought through the pain, the doubts, the betrayals. You've faced your demons and come out stronger. Now it's time for you to show them who you really are. Not the version they thought they could break, but the version you've become. The time has come for you to step into your power, to remind them that you are far more than they ever imagined. You're not the person they tried to destroy. You're the force they never saw coming. And so, as you stand at the edge of everything they tried to bury you under, remember this. You are the storm they never expected, the fire they never saw coming, and the darkness they can no longer hide from. You've walked through hell, and you didn't just survive, you became something untouchable. The battles, the pain, the betrayals, they all forged you into a force that cannot be broken. Now, it's your time to rise. It's your time to remind the world that you are no longer the person they thought they could control, manipulate, or destroy. You've embraced your scars, danced with your fears, and conquered the darkness. The very things they thought would finish you only made you stronger, sharper, and more powerful than ever before. So, step forward, show them who you've become, because now they'll see that the monster they tried to create was always you.